Welcome back to the PHYS Podcast. I'm your host, Tyson Martin. Today's guest is Spencer Harding, a photographer, writer, bike touring advocate, and longtime contributing editor for the Radavist. Based in Tucson, Arizona, Spencer has become a respected voice in the cycling and bikepacking world through his distinctive photography, storytelling, and passion for adventure on two wheels. Known for blending photography, exploration, and a love for unconventional bikes, Spencer's work captures the beauty of the overlooked, from remote desert landscapes and forgotten infrastructures to the people and places found along the way. In this conversation, we explore creativity, bike culture, visual storytelling, and the experiences that continue to shape his unique perspective behind the camera. This episode of the PHYS Podcast is brought to you by PHYS. PHYS is a nonprofit organization dedicated to advancing photography in the emerging field of mural arts. We believe photography is more than just a way to document our lives. It can be a tool for healing, self-discovery, personal growth, and even human connection. Through workshops, educational programs, community events, and research initiatives, PHYS brings together photographers, scientists, healthcare professionals, artists, and individuals curious about the transformational potential of photography. Whether you're interested in well-being, creativity, neuroscience, or simply the power of a photograph to shape how we see ourselves and the world around us, we invite you to join. To learn more, become a member, or support our mission, visit photophase.org. That's FOTOPHASE.org. Now let's get to the show.
Hi, my name is Spencer Harding. I'm a photographer based now for the last 8 years in Tucson, Arizona. So we're down in the very southern part. I grew up in Southern California. I got my start as a skateboard photographer. I studied fine art photography in college. These days, I mostly shoot bicycles, but on personal projects, I've become a bit of a microwave communication historian and a guy at a party you don't want to mention John Muir or Ed Abbey around. So I'm a bit of a buzzkill. So an intersection of public land use and finding allegories for that in photography.
Amazing, man. So I came around across your work through our mutual friend Found in the Mountains. I noticed you guys would communicate all the time, and I'm like, okay. So then I hopped over. This was a while ago. And then I noticed that you were part of the Radavist, best website for cycling related stuff, at least in the genre of cycling that excites me and entertains me. How did that connection come about?
So this will probably be a theme throughout this whole thing, is I'm the worst hustler in the photographic world ever. I had been reading the Radavist back when it was Probably Is Not Probably.
Yeah.
Like in the fixed gear days.
Yeah.
I feel like I had sent John a few emails over the years that probably just got lost in the fray. I went on a bike tour with some friends the first or second year the Idaho Hot Springs route was established by the Adventure Cycling. Brought my camera, shot a bunch of photos. There was a gallery on, I'm pretty sure it was Facebook. And John noticed it and posted like a radar post. And that was the beginning of our communication. I was living in Los Angeles at the time. I lived at a place called the Church of Fun, which was this kind of like punk house, warehouse commune, a little bit in like East Hollywood. So not too far from the Golden Saddle Shop, which John then moved there. And once John moved to LA, we were corresponding a little more. And I slowly weaseled my way in more and more until at this point, it's my day-to-day job is running the back end of the website, social media, intaking contributor stuff now. So it's been a very organic thing because I was over, it was like 2016, maybe early 2014. So it's been a little under a decade now, weaseling my way into the core of the website.
Oh, that's incredible. That shows, like, I mean, you just have to sometimes. My dog sneezed in the background. Oh, that's amazing. Thanks, Oso. Totally off train of thought now. Just making sure he's not eating my couch. So yeah, so you hooked up with that. You obviously ride a ton of bikes. Do you ride everything? Are you into mountain biking, bikepacking, the works?
Yeah, at this point, I mean, no one's going to see this, but I try to have as little overlap in my bikes as possible. Predominantly these days, it's mountain biking, off-road touring, gravel gets mixed in there. I still have a fixed gear. I don't ride it very much. I've been waiting for the fall. and then a little bit of road in the summertime. I'll just basically pump my gravel tires up and then riding up and down Mount Lemon here on the bike path just to get some miles in because it's, surface of the sun. So I'd say I have a pretty wide breadth across the whole spectrum of riding styles. I don't go like Red Bull Rampage and I'm not going super fast-paced road rides, but everything kind of inside of those outliers.
Nice. What what transitioned you from shooting skateboarding into shooting bicycles?
In college, my second year, I moved off campus and I went to Cal State Long Beach. If you've ever been there, it's the campus is 1/3 parking lot. And the time it would have taken me to drive from my apartment to campus and then walk from the parking lot, like almost a mile to my classrooms, was the same time as riding my bike from my apartment straight to my classroom and locking it up. So instead of spending $150 on a parking pass, I bought a old steel 10 speed on like Craigslist back in the day. And that was the beginning of me cycling as an adult. I still was skateboarding more in the first few years of college, and then that slowly transitioned into a lot more cycling. And now I have two skateboards. They're tucked away, but they haven't been used in a few months. So there was, it's funny now because right now there's a huge transition of a lot of people I looked up to skateboarding as a kid have been getting kind of close with cross bikes, which my friend Matt and Cheech own. So like I got to meet Louis Lopez recently.
Wow.
And like Scuba Steve and Ryan Flynn, filmers and photographers that I used to grow up like seeing their stuff, are getting into bikes now, which is really interesting. And there was an early like Cardiel, and there's another skater whose name is escaping me. Kind of like a Guy Mariano type figure that kind of just disappeared into the background and got really into track bikes early on in San Francisco. So I think that like skateboard to bike shift has been happening for a long time. And I got caught up in it as well.
It's amazing how addictive riding a bike actually is. I moved from Portland, Oregon to Vancouver, Canada when I was 15. And 1990, late 89, early 1990, I rode the North Shore Grouse Mountain, ladies only, first trail on a bicycle ever. And before that, it was like jumping my BMX and making ramps and racing BMX and doing that. But I was hooked instantly. It was challenging because I was so used to skateboarding. My whole life was skateboarding, 82 until, I don't know, 15 years ago when I was like, okay, I'm done. But there was something about bikes, and they are addictive. And I have that personality. When I get into something, I go all the way. You start watching. Back then you waited for a VHS tape video to come out, every magazine, stacks of magazines, looking at things where people are like, oh, you want a road bike? Why do you want that? I don't know. They go fast. And then I got hooked on fixed gears. And that was 10 years of my life. That was the most fun I think I've ever had on a bicycle.
Oh yeah, I got caught up in that too. Long Beach had a really interesting scene for that. And then right around that time was in Los Angeles, the Midnight Riders. We used to, and then I got swept into like the weird freak bike side of that, and tall bikes and weird, all kind of stuff. But we were doing like 3,000 person party rides. We had bikes with full sound systems on them, like just wherever we set up was a party. And I got so swept up in like the fixed gear into that scene and freak bikes. And yeah, it was very addictive, and it was a super special moment that I haven't really seen come around again. So that was a really special time to be in LA and just get swept up in it.
I remember I got sent a copy of To Live and Ride in LA.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, I need to go there. Or
just
a really
like special time.
The legend Keo Curry, like just watching what he could do on a fixed gear bike it was insane. And you'd go out and try it and you'd be like, no, not happening.
No. And in Long Beach, I was around, some of the first photo gigs I got was doing stuff for volume bikes and like Bag X with Congo and Matt Spencer.
Okay.
Some of those guys that came up in Long Beach in the early fixed gear freestyle stuff.
It's impressive because if you don't time your pedals right, you're in for a fun Fun
It
landing.
can't. Yeah.
So what else so you're in Tucson, you said, correct?
Correct.
Yeah. So what is it that drew you to Tucson? Because it's hot.
Ooh, I was living in a trailer in my friend's backyard in Oakland, 2016 to 2018. I started dating my now partner that I live with. We bought a house here in 2019. They were living in Minneapolis, and about a year into their relationship, they're like, "The fuck are we doing? Are we going to move to the same place, or are we just going to keep like flying back and forth every few weeks?" So we threw a bunch of places out. I had been down here for work. I know it sounds like I do a lot of photography, but for about 8 years, I worked as a bicycle tour guide. So driving a van with a trailer with all the bikes, snacks, full service, hotels, yada, yada, yada. And I had been down here leading a few of those tours in the years previous, and was pleasantly surprised by Tucson. I didn't know what to expect. I'd been to Phoenix a few times, but when I had come to Tucson, it was felt really charming, and there was a few buds down here. And it seemed like the cycling world was just starting to really converge down here, and that's continued as well, which has been a great little hub for like winter cycling. And when we were throwing out places, we were like Salt Lake City, Reno, like Truckee, and then Tucson came up, and I was like, I almost moved there, and it seemed really lovely. And my partner was very brave and signed up to move here in August, sight unseen. And we rolled up in August, and then a year later, we bought a house here, and we love it now. So
amazing. Well, you have everything you could possibly want, like very close.
Yeah, we've got all the way up to Aspen Forest at 9,000 feet, an hour and 15 minutes from our doorstep. And I've got the beautiful Sonoran Desert. We just had like 2 days of monsoons. Everything's so green right now. It's gorgeous right now.
Nice. Get out there and go for a ride and capture some moments.
I just got back from a ride about 30 minutes before this.
Oh, nice.
So that's awesome. I didn't have to leave at 4 a.m. today, which was decadent.
I guess that's kind of a natural time to leave in the middle of summer if you want to get a ride in.
Yeah, you got to be home by like 8 or 9 at the latest. So
couldn't even imagine.
It's just a reverse winter, it's a weird thing, but you get used to it.
Yeah. So when I talk to the creatives and everybody that I've spoken to over the last 2 years, I love to hear their process. I love to hear, the part of life where they picked up that camera and then they realized that this is what they wanted to do. It's like picking up a skateboard. At first you hate it because you fall all the time, but then that first time you successfully make that hill. I remember it. It was 1982. I remember the feeling when I made it to the bottom of the hill, and the shutter on a camera is very similar for me. So do you remember when that time came when you realized like, this is something I want to incorporate into my life as something I'm going to do for a very long time?
I don't know if I have an exact aha moment. I picked up a camera junior year of high school. My dad had an old Pentax Spotmatic, old M42 for anyone out there. I still have it. I think it's over here somewhere, about 50 mil. I picked up the camera. We had a pretty okay photo program at my high school. We had a full dark room and like a dedicated photography teacher. I took that class 1 year, and then in the senior year, me and my friend Aaron, we were going to the local community college to do more advanced darkroom, like black and white stuff. And halfway through my senior year, the idea of college rolled around, and I always thought like, I don't know what I'm doing. And then I realized at some point that I really wanted to like get out of my hometown for a little bit and like go to college. And at that point, the only thing that was really catching my interest as far as studying was photography. And I was doing a lot of skateboarding then. And obviously, if you've looked at old Trans World or like Thrasher magazines, the whole world is so photography driven, or was. It's less so now. But that was the only thing I really knew was skateboarding. And then like it was like in high school, and it seemed like the only thing I wanted to pursue. So I toured a few colleges and wound up at Long Beach State. They have a really good, one of the largest publicly funded art programs. for like a state college in the country, and a pretty awesome photo program. And I wound up there and hit the ground running. Just decided that I was going to do photography as my degree. Feel like I hemmed and hawed a few years in, but eventually stuck with it. And I'm really happy to still be using a camera after deciding that when I was 19 or 20.
Yeah, I mean, and it's taking you to some pretty cool projects.
Oh, for sure. It's taking me incredible places.
I love your photos because when I was looking at them earlier, I love how you incorporate the landscape with the rider or the main subject instead of just being that close up on the rider. It gives the full feel of the environment.
That is something I've definitely noticed as well. And I think that stems from skateboarding.
Yeah.
Because in skateboarding, you've got to show the run up, the landing, the actual trick, and there's a context. I was thinking about this the other day because John, who owns the Radavist, his background's architecture, and I think a lot of his bicycle photography incorporates those ideas of architecture, of straight lines, and like if you've ever done any architectural photography and like tilt shift lenses, you're trying to always like balance all of the horizontals and verticals, and skateboarding is very similar to that too. It borrows a lot because it's typically using architecture in a new and creative way. So I've found that my photography since then has been very much informed by like the inherent architectural style of that just bleeds into skateboard photography. I mean, there's obviously outliers and examples, but a lot of it when I was growing up felt like that. So I think, and I carry that to bike touring, and I carry that for like context for reviews or whatever I'm doing. Like, I think it's important to see like the run up, the run out, where things are going. And there is times to punch in and there's times to be really close and do some more creative shots like that. But I've definitely found that basis in skateboard photography has permeated how I approach other projects throughout my life.
Yeah. I found when I started, I mean, I've only been shooting photos for 6 years, but I found when I started, I was still looking at everything like a skateboarder. You know, when you walk through a town and you're looking and you like,
it's a different way. Yeah.
And you look at a ledge or you look at a bank and you're like, oh, I could do this. And you just start picturing, you shoot different angles. I love when I can incorporate that into my photo. And people are like, oh, why would you shoot at that angle? I mean, to me, it looks normal. To you, it doesn't, but I love it. So there's really no right or wrong. We're just having a good time right now.
But one thing, if you've ever seen like stock skateboarding photos, you can tell when someone photographing skateboarding has no idea about skateboarding. Like it becomes very clear very quickly that the like vernacular is off. For someone who's like engaged with skateboarding, yeah, it's very quick to see like, oh, this person didn't understand like what was relevant to this trick or to this spot or to this motion in a way.
Yeah, I was back home in early October last year before I got sick. My home is Milwaukee, Oregon, so just outside of Portland. And I mean, I terrorized that town on a skateboard. Like me and my group of friends terrorized that town. Like there's parts that still have probably parts of my trucks embedded into the concrete. But my wife and I were just out for a walk, and I was showing her around my hometown, and I could hear people skateboarding. So I obviously am going to beeline it that direction. And there was a group of like 4 or 5 guys. They'd taken a plate and put a skateboard under it to give them a bank up onto this ledge. And then they were doing like, the guys were nuts. Like compared to what I was used to doing, I'm watching them and I'm like, oh my goodness. So I only had a 23 mil. I had a Fuji X100V with me, and I'm across the street. So I asked them if I could shoot. They said, yeah. So I was shooting them, and so I got this picture it had the bank, it had their filmer, it had the guy kick flipping off the ledge, and then had this really cool shadow sequence. And everybody's like, oh, you should have cropped in on the guy. And I was like trying to explain that exact same thing. I need the beginning, the middle, and I need the end. You know, I can't do it if I'm just cropped in. It just looks like he could be on the ground doing a kickflip. Yeah. I got to tell that story.
I think I saw some photographer, I can't remember who it was, but they were explaining that shooting skateboard photography taught them how to use negative space in a way that they had never considered. Because sometimes you do need to let things breathe a little bit. And in that very same way, like someone who hasn't shot it will just punch into like the action or the movement or what's going on. But it's like the context is really important
Yeah,
in skateboarding.
I agree. So I'm looking at your commission work. You've worked with Alpaca, the raft company.
I have, yeah.
How was that?
Some friends used to work there in their, oh God, what's the town? Why am I just outside of Durango? Mancos, Colorado. Um, my friend Molly used to be kind of their customer service front of house person. Uh, and that got me introduced with Lizzie Scully used to work there. She now owns and runs Four Corners Guides with Steve Fassbinder or Republic of Doom, if you're familiar.
I know the name.
Yeah. And Doom is very much the like the Simpsons did it of everything in the Southwest for climbing, biking, or rafting. I'd always wanted an alpaca raft. Actually, me and my friend Kira years ago, I was up there one summer and I was like, we went to like 7 Fred Meyers to find the little Intex rafts. I was like, we're going pack rafting on the Willamette today. And we just spent a whole day like going around and like strapping our bike like to these like little like $20 rafts. And I always wished I'd had an alpaca. And eventually I got clued in with them enough and I was able to do some work trade for them for my first caribou. And now I've got 3 of them. I worked briefly. My partner was a raft guide for 3 years up in Dinosaur National Monument, and I wound up working there as a guide for a year. So we got pretty into river stuff for a few years, which was really fun. And alpacas, I feel very spoiled because I mean, I've floated like crappier rafts, but at this point in time, I've got 3 handmade USA really high quality inflatable rafts that have taken me on a lot of amazing trips. Feel very lucky to have gotten clued in with them. Sarah and Thor are like absolute darlings of humans, and their mother is Sherry is incredibly inspirational. I've got to meet her and like Roman Dial briefly as well on some of my visits. But
That's
super cool company.
I love the connection. I mean, skateboarding is the same as cycling. It's kind of who you know, but it could be the person that you just said hi to that opens that door and lets you get in. And then you start to meet everybody. You start to get in with companies. And then you, like you said, you could do trade for work. But now you have alpaca rafts, which is amazing because those things are amazing.
Yeah, and I can't really, I can afford them now a little more than I could like 7 or 8 years ago when I was dirt bagging around a little harder than I am now living in my nice house. But
I always say that to my friends. They're like, "Oh, we're going here," and I'm like, "I can't, man. There's just no way." And they're like, "But you have a house," and I'm like, "Do you know how much it costs to run a house nowadays?" I would much rather live
never ending to-do list. Yeah,
and like we just had our property taxes doubled.
Oof.
Because they're putting in rapid transit and they didn't budget enough. They're over budget, so now they taxed us all in the city. It's amazing. I was very happy when we got the bill.
It's got our bill too, which is probably much lower down in Arizona for a cheap house, but nonetheless, you're just like, oh, it keeps going up.
Yeah. Well, it was $7,800.
Oof. Yeah, that's a different story.
And I was like, luckily I pay property taxes every month. So my mortgage company, they make sure it's paid, and then they obviously lift my rates the next year to cover it. It's been awesome. I don't want to be a house owner anymore. I want a Sprinter and I'll live in it.
That comes with its own set of things as well. But yes, an understandable reaction sometimes.
Yeah. So you've worked with quite a few cool brands. I mean, Salsa. I'm trying to read it here. My eyes are failing me.
Yeah. Also, that website hasn't been updated in probably like 6 years. I don't know.
Hey, but still, I mean, like, I love the Tour Divide race. I think the fact that it's a self-propelled race from Banff all the way down to New Mexico, right? Like, that is insane.
It is insane, especially when you're following the athletes who are pushing kind of the sharp edge of that race. It's one thing to like watch the dots, and it's one thing. I've ridden most of that route in chunks at this point. I have never done like a full through bike, but when you're driving in a car with a whole media team and people are riding 200 plus miles a day off road, there was a lot of times documenting that. It was the 2019, I believe. We had a hard time catching people in a car because they're sleeping for like 3 hours or 4 hours or sometimes less. And you're trying to like not get sick and get 7 or 8 hours of sleep. And then so at the same point, you're like hopscotching them and you're in a car and it's sometimes actually hard to catch them because they're just moving so fast in terrain that's hard to keep up with on a car. I mean, that was mostly dirt roads. There's not a lot of single track, but nonetheless, it was a challenge in itself just to keep up with that kind of a pace. I can't imagine if I get 2 bad nights of sleep, my lymph nodes go like this, and I can't. So seeing athletes who are able to push that envelope for 12 to 16 or 18 days straight is staggering in a way that it's every once in a while I'll go for a long bike ride and be like, I could probably, and then I go like 5 more miles and I'm like, I know, not a chance, not a chance.
Yeah. I remember watching it. I'd seen it, a couple DVDs. One of my best friends lives in Calgary, Alberta, so he did a lot of work on people's bikes before the start. Yeah. And I started looking into it. Then you start watching, you see the movie Ride the Divide, and you're like, oh, like this is serious. People are putting their bodies and their health at risk every time they're out there. And I think that last one was with Mike Hall, who unfortunately has passed away. But he was a machine.
Yeah, it's crazy to think how long. I mean, the interesting thing about the Tour Divide is that record stood for so long, but the course changes every year and it's gotten significantly harder.
Yeah.
In the last probably 5 to 10 years than it was when Mike Hall set his record. It's gotten longer as well. There was some stuff with Lachlan Morton. He put out a beautiful film with his brother Gus as well. That one, so that's the funny thing is the media. It's I don't want to get too into it, but there's a whole kind of thing about media in these endurance races that's been really difficult to be a part of. I've distanced myself from that world a little bit in the last few years just because of how hostile it was towards media, which is fine. Yeah. I don't need to document it anymore. I feel like I've done that, but it was cool to see some of the films, and then there's a few other things coming out about that as well. But it's an incredible race. The route's awesome. I mean, route's almost 30 years old now. We biked part of it. You might see on the website, the first DFL the Divide was kind of a reaction to the race. It was like, how slow can we go? And so we got like 18 people together or whatever, and it was a rolling shit show. But we rode to Adventure Cycling's 40th anniversary, and I believe that was the 25th anniversary of the Tour Divide route, which is pretty impressive for Adventure Cycling. Had mostly on-road routes, and now they've been outpaced by the growth of all these new races, routes, and stuff that are kind of crisscrossing the country now. But super cool to see how long that route has stood, and it's kind of a benchmark for long-distance touring.
Yeah. It'd be a ton of fun with just a big group of friends, just having a blast as you rode it.
Oh my, and that was a pivotal.
Hey guys, it's Tyson. I just want to take a quick moment to thank Harlow Lighting for always supporting the PHYS Podcast. Whether you're creating portraits, documenting stories, filming content, or working on your next creative project, Harlow's innovative lighting tools are designed to help you bring your vision to life. From powerful continuous lights to compact portable solutions, Harlow is redefining what's possible for photographers and filmmakers. To learn more and save on your next purchase, use the link in the show notes. Now let's get back to the show.
Moment for my photography and for like my kind of place in the bike world. We had done the Oregon Outback with some of that crew the year before, or on a tall bike with my friend Adrian as well, and kind of made a splash on Instagram. And I think that was when I got a little bit of notoriety in that world. And then a few years later, this was when you could go on Instagram and like actually really meet people.
Yeah.
And we just messaged people that we saw doing cool bike stuff, like, hey, meet in Banff on July 15th or whatever it was. And we're just going to bring everything you need for 2 weeks. We're going to ride to Missoula. And it was literally that simple. And that was it wound up being a bit of a nexus for a lot of really interesting collaborations between bike companies and friends of mine. And it definitely kind of a watershed, like a high water moment for cool shit I got to do.
Yeah, man. Like I'm looking at a picture right now from the Oregon Outback on the tall bike on your website. Like, dude, that's incredible. Right.
I think that's the about me photo. I think is me on that tall bike. I think.
I just went into the book section. There you go.
Oh yeah, the little kind of fancy zines. Book is a strong word.
Now, you've collaborated with brands, and I've been really trying to get this year. I've been focusing more on people who are in sports and hobbies and activities that I enjoy, that I love, because I feel like it's a hard industry to stay consistent in. I mean, you got the Radavist, which is again the leading website that I go to on a daily basis. But do you have any advice for people who are just getting started?
This is where I'm going to be a really poor resource, to be totally frank. I honestly don't like the hustle of commercial photography. I don't like cold emailing people. I don't like the back and forth. The few like truly professional or like commercial shoots I've done have literally fallen into my lap just due to circumstances in my life. It's not something I seek out very often because I enjoy the consistency of the Radavist. I get to shoot. I get a lot of freedom of what I want to be interested in and what I want to photograph or review. And I really appreciate that. I don't make nearly as much money as I would if I was out there like chasing down big shoots and stuff like that. I found I really don't enjoy that rat race. I noticed that pretty early on. I used to actually work as an assistant a lot in Los Angeles, and I love being on set. I love doing that part, or like lighting or doing fashion stuff. Don't really care about shooting a lot of that stuff, to be totally frank. So I like helping out and being a part of that stuff, but the whole chasing down of companies and contracts and what's your budget, what's your rate, what's your budget, that stuff gives me so much anxiety that like I said, I worked as a guide for like 8 to 10 about 8 years so that I could just do whatever I wanted with my photography or like go on trips. And I just had this very stable for seasonal work income. Only the last probably 2 years when I quit, I was the bike guide, then briefly river guiding. And then I came to the Radavist, that I've been helping out really, really sparsely, and said, hey, like I want a job. And there's a long story, but we were owned by like a larger kind of hedge fund thing for a while, and that all fell apart. And I decided to go whole hog right as that was happening. So
I remember reading about that and I remember the post John posted about being the owner of the Radavist again.
Yeah, and that's a whole long story, but suffice to say, like things like contracted budget wise and otherwise for the last few years. But this has been probably the first time in my career if you want, where I feel like I'm doing photography more consistently than I ever had, and doing a few little jobs here. I just did like a 4-day shoot with a German bike brand where they had one of their employees on tour, and luckily my friend Wade was like at a bike show and just like, oh, Spencer will shoot that for you. Otherwise I would have never. I don't have like an email list. So I really wish I had good advice for young photographers. I've been incredibly lucky and I've had the fortune of all of these things basically falling into my lap. And I wish I had a better way to put it besides just go do cool shit and be engaged with the community or the world that you're into, and hopefully someone will notice. It's not great advice.
But honestly, that needs to be heard, because up until my illness, I was 100% go all the time. I was running my body down to working full time, raising children, taking care of my dogs, trying to do a podcast, which takes 8 to 10 to 12 hours per episode. By the time I originally start it and get everything set up, record it, edit it, write the intro, do all this stuff. It's a long process that I was barely sleeping. And that's why I believe I got so sick. And in the hospital, I was frustrated because they would tell me one thing, you're going to go home, you're doing good. And then they'd come in 2 hours later and say, no, it hasn't improved at all. But you just told me 2 hours ago I was doing good. Right. And then it would be like, you're here for another 2 weeks. And yeah.
So there's the advice. Like, when you're in your 20s, like run it ragged. As soon as you turn 30, get 6 to 8 hours of sleep every night. And that's get good sleep, do the dishes. Everything will be okay. That's my life advice.
There you go. But I realized like I have more time behind me now than I have left ahead of me. And I've given it to employers, and I've given it, my youngest son is now 21. So it's like, I'm like, they don't need me every day. So now I'm starting to like, how do I transition from 5 days a week to 3 days a week? So I'm listening to all the advice from my guests who are, I love my camera, so I would love to make money off it. I love this show. I'd love to make money off it. But I also don't want to have to hustle and chase people. I want people to come to me and be like, hey, we like your vision. We want to be a part of it. And I feel like that's how I can stay true to my own self. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And there's a time sometimes when you need a paycheck, and like I've taken jobs and I'm just like, it's not super intriguing to me necessarily, but like sometimes you need a paycheck, and if it falls in your lap, great.
Yep.
I think I would have a hard time. I mean, my day-to-day shooting is like, I shoot products. I like reviewed a sleeping bag or a handlebar bag. And those things are generally not engaging as like photography assignments. There's sometimes you can take a little liberty and have fun. And I have a day job working for this website. I get to use my camera pretty often, but like there's also just a lot of logistics in that. I have always joked if for some reason the Radavist went away, I would probably just go get a job as an electrician or a plumber at this point in my life.
Yep.
I mean, maybe I could try and hustle for a year and see if I could make that work, but I've definitely found that I'd keep all my camera stuff and still shoot stuff I'm excited about, but I would just go get a job as a plumber. Well, like I'll just moonlight or something like that.
Just to separate, right? It's nice to separate. You love taking photos, but it's nice for me when I go to work and I don't have to take photos.
Absolutely.
I'm there. I'm on the phone. I'm having a great time, and I'm like, I leave work and I'm like, oh, I should take a photo. My camera's always with me. It's always in my bag. But just what I think I really liked about your photos is it's just you captured moments of fun, moments of like, I'm looking right now, I'm looking at the Great Divide zine or book that you have out. Mm-hmm. And they're just sitting on the bench and they look like they're, they hate their lives. They're all kind of staring straight ahead at the base. It looks like a baseball diamond, but it's like it's a real moment. You know what I mean? Like that's a real moment. It wasn't like, it's not prettied up. It's like, this is how it feels. And the dude with the red hat, like I can feel his pain right now, just looking at the image.
Oh man, I know the photo. So that tour, we joked, we started, my friends, Sam and Kurt both got sponsored by Blackburn in the early days of bikepacking for their Ranger program. And they rode the Tour Divide. We actually had full rock climbing gear on that trip. If you look at those photos, it's pretty impressive. So we had shoes, harness, small trad rack of cams and nuts. And they were climbing once a week. And I met them in Missoula and rode to just below Jackson Hole, Wyoming with them. Yeah, and they were always joking. They're calling themselves the Dugout Boys because when you're in like a little town, you can usually go find the baseball diamond, and half the time the dugout's covered. So if you want a little place to stealth camp, so that was the joke, and that was I believe that was somewhere outside of Jackson Hole. We actually got into a dugout that night, but it was a pretty grimy. That was a rowdy tour. We did some really sketchy rock climbing and some just really sketchy everything. That was probably I look back so fondly on that trip because it was just, I had it's not here. I just got my dad's old hybrid that I used on that trip. It was literally like 1993 Diamondback, 70 mil hybrid suspension, tubes, like solid center tires. And I just strapped a rack in my sleeping bag and all my climbing gear to it and just went, and it just showed up. And this was just a really pure, silly trip, and we were just goofballing so hard. And yeah, seeing those photos, I look back really fondly on that adventure.
Just moments and memories that you'll never forget. I mean, some of my favorite times, like I followed the Norba circuit on the West Coast for downhill. And I was like, I remember driving into Colorado. It was like 3:30 in the morning. And I can't even remember where we came from, but we were laughing so hard. We were delirious. And we were laughing because we were like, hey, we need to qualify tomorrow. And I'm like, well, I'm going to get last place because there's no way I'm going to qualify because I haven't slept in 2 days, you know? But just those travel memories with that group of people that have become such good friends. And that's what I look at with my bikes. I mean, my life in a bike shop started in probably 2000, you know, turning wrenches. And then I moved to sales, and then I
It's definitely the plight of a bike mechanic is you're always fixing. I mean, between mine and my partner's bikes, it's a part-time job just to keep everything running.
and
So
then I left there and went back into building off-road trucks. So I build people's dreams for their overland trucks. So it's the coolest job. I would do it before, and now like my excitement to shoot photos is back. My excitement to ride my bike is back, and okay, I can separate it. So now I'm trying to plan trips that, because I'm not 100% healthy anymore, that my e-bike can take me on. So I've got 2 batteries for my e-bike now, which gets me up to 200 miles, you know? So you're like, okay, I've got 2 different Tenkara rods. I've got all my bags. I got my front rack, my rear rack, and just slowly piecing it together to do a fun run and just try to just get back to remembering why I ride bikes. And that's to be in the outdoors and to bring nature into my life and absorb it, you know, like take it in.
it's such a special feeling, and I've spoken about this some before on some other like podcasts, but the feeling you get when you like leave town, even by yourself or like especially with friends, and you peel out and you've got, even if it's just for an overnight, like you got everything on your bike, you got your food, you got your water, your tent, your stove, like the feeling of just rolling out of town with everything you need, like for a few days is so special. And it's something that's really, I think, unique to bikes. Like, you know, you go on a car camping trip, it can be really special too. And like you can get to some really cool places. But just that feeling of rolling out and like pedaling with your friends and just having all your stuff with you is really special. Or if you're doing a longer trip, especially, like I remember peeling out of Missoula being like, okay, I guess I'm going for 3 weeks to wherever we get to, just hitchhike back. And it was just total abandon. And
Yeah.
that is a really special feeling.
Yeah. Man, what year would it have been? 92, June of 92. I remember I was 18. So I remember finishing school and then getting on my bike, which was like, I want to say it was a Specialized stump jumper with a Mag 21. So we're going way back, but like a backpack and like the cheapest crappy fitting rack, didn't bolt to anything, but that had a old sleeping bag on it. I didn't even think about food, and you know, you're wearing jeans and a t-shirt, and we rode from Vancouver down to Lincoln City, Oregon, and it was just like,
On the coast, yeah.
I mean, I'd grown up down there, so I had family down there, which was great because we had a place to stay, and they gave us a ride back up to Portland to get on the train. But like, I want to do more of that now, where life can be slower, where I'm not just so oblivious to everything around me. You know, that young teenage angst where you're just gone, you're not paying attention. I want to take that in. I want to capture those moments. I want to document that time. I want to share that story. So it's like so much different now, but I love it. I love it. And I see the stuff that you do, and I see these zines you put together, and you can see the fun you're having. And it just inspires me to actually make this happen.
Good. I want nothing more than people to be excited about going on trips or doing cool stuff. If I can inspire people to go do cool shit, that's about, you know, it's exciting to see like a print on a wall or something. I need to sell more prints somehow, but you know, that's the thing, is like hearing stories about people who have been inspired by your work, or like seeing that stuff on walls or seeing it fully printed. I had a fun story I met this kid years ago. I was like passing through Santa Cruz, California, went to my friend who worked at a bike shop, met this kid at the front counter, didn't remember him at all. And then last year I ran to him. He's now dating my friend. And he's like, "Hey, I saw your article on this pack rafting trip, like when I was living in Santa Cruz, and it made me want to move to Moab." And now he moved to Moab, and now he's dating the person that was in that article. And it was like, me? I inspired, I don't live here. But it's just an overnight pack rafting trip. And he was like, "What's Moab? Like, I've never been to Utah." And now he's like a firefighter and like has been living out there for a decade. And so like these silly things that you do, or these silly trips, or if you can get the photos out, like they can inspire people. And that's, yeah, I'd rather have that than any paycheck, I guess.
Yeah, it's that, just the moments. You forget sometimes how many amazing moments you've shared, you know,
Truly,
through your camera.
Super, super blessed. Like I've had an absolute, like, just such a lucky life. And I can't chalk that all up to my own goodwill, but like I've just been very lucky in the things I've been able to do and the things I've been afforded to do. And yeah.
Do you have any projects in the works? Anything that you're working on besides being the man at the Radavist?
There is a project that's been very much in the background for, God, I don't want to do the math, almost 10 years. So Wilderness Parking is a photography project I've been working on. When I was a bike tour guide, I was working up in Banff. And if you've been through Banff, you know how annoying all the RVs and the shuttle buses.
Oh, it's insane. It's even worse now.
I can't imagine. I haven't been up there in years. I was sitting in parking lots a lot. And you see these rental RVs and these big tour buses, and they had these vignettes of wilderness and like mountains and sunsets or lakes. And I started shooting photos of those and like kind of cropping in and making my own vignettes of those as an allegory for like just kind of the degradation of nature and public lands. That has now kind of tumbled into some exploration of wilderness areas in the United States that share borders with bombing ranges or proving grounds, and that kind of dichotomy, and shooting some photos of that. And I've been working on a few sculptural things. I'm hoping to find a small place to do a show with some of that work. It's gone a little bit past just the Cruise America RVs and tour buses. So trying to flesh out, I got a studio for the first time in my life this past year, so I could actually print things out and put them on walls and look at them. And so that has led me to a lot of reasons. Oh, good.
Oh, I was just saying, it's such a different experience when you put a print on the wall.
It really is. So just being able to see it. So many things have just existed on my computer screen or a small laptop up until the last few years. And so I'm excited to see that maybe actually end up in a gallery somewhere. There was a show I was supposed to be a part of about 2 years ago that unfortunately got canceled last minute. So I was like, I thought I was going to retire. I was like, I'm going to be a part of a museum show. I went to college for fine art. Like, I get to retire. This is great. And then the show didn't happen. So now I was like, okay, I got to re-examine the stuff. I got to print it out. I got to see it on a wall and hopefully find a space. And I'd really love to actually have a small show with some of that work and see it come to full fruition this year or next year even.
Amazing. I love that. Like, I'm trying to, the interior of British Columbia, I'm Indigenous, so my community is just outside of Merritt. So what I want to do is I want to capture, there's so many old mines and homesteads and barns from like the late 1800s, early 1900s that are just, they're dilapidated, but you can still see the structures. I want to capture those and share them in a book form or some kind of maybe gallery form with a story from an Indigenous elder in each community as I travel across British Columbia, and just share history, right? I love history, whether it's, I mean, history is full of good, bad, and indifferent. The present's full of very bad and indifferent. But I don't talk politics, so that'll get cut out. But I don't even know what to say anymore about what's happening. I feel bad for everybody right now.
Yeah, that's a long thing to delve into, but actually, so part of that project, what really helped catapult it was a book called Dispossessing the Wilderness. I think it was Mark David Spence, and it talked about it's focused on mostly national parks was where the project really started. It talked about like indigenous dispossession of those areas and like controlling of the animal populations and like turning them into kind of zoos that they were for like early national parks to get people to drive in, and just talking about how kind of there's a whole very problematic history of how like public land use in the United States even up till right now, but especially in the national parks and national forests. So it was interesting to explore that, and it's a book I wish I had read like a decade earlier before I was while I was guiding, because I worked in most of the parks that were in that book. It was mostly like Glacier National Park, Yosemite, and Yellowstone. I grew up going to Yosemite every single year as a kid, so it's all big Ansel Adams fandom in my childhood that I remember looking back. My parents had some like prints and copies and stuff as well. But reading that history and understanding the national parks in a way that I never had before really got the gears turning. And like once I started reading that book and taking these photos of these RVs and buses that I was just angry at, it really started to coalesce into a really nice visual allegory that I didn't have the eloquence to find on my own. So a lot of that project is matching up quotes from that research as opposed to my own words, because it's like my opinion's kind of irrelevant in all of it, but as a way to kind of mash up those things and find a cool way to explore that visually.
Oh man, it sounds amazing. If
A little bit depressing. Like I said, you can get me at a party sometimes.
No,
It'd be a bit of a killjoy, but I think it's an important thing to be discussed, especially like post COVID. There's a lot of people who found their way into the outdoor recreation space, and it's easy to be like sunshine and roses about like, oh, I can go to this national park or this like national forest, just camp by myself. It's free, and I don't want to like take away the joy of enjoying those spaces, but like I think there is a certain amount of history that people need to know and understand to enjoy those spaces without being contrived.
Yeah, I agree. And I think when you get this thing in the works, let me know and we'll push it. We'll talk about it on the show, help you get it out there. I think it's important. It's really important for people to understand any land that they use, where it actually came from and how it was acquired.
100%.
As an indigenous man, it's very, very important to me. Like I have to ground myself every few days. I have a little river that's just down the street. I have to put my feet in the water, and I have to like just, sit and be one with my thoughts and connect myself to Mother Earth, because without Mother Earth, we have nothing.
It's been really great to actually watch a lot of, I don't know where it's going to go soon, but in the last few years, there have been a lot of parks that have been inviting the indigenous populations that were displaced to make the parks back to be a part of it, or giving them a little more of their historical access for ceremony and stuff like that. So there has been, things have gotten better. They're nowhere near where they need to be as far as like repatriation of that land in those spaces, but small victories. But yeah, like that's such an important thing. And like I can go out and connect, and like I went swimming east of town last night and it felt nice, but like that connection is different for me than for you.
Yeah.
And we can both enjoy that in very different ways, but it's important to understand how crucial that is to the indigenous populations, that they have access to those places and those spaces to do that without being told to leave or pay a fee or yeah.
It's cool to hear it from a different perspective. I mean, I've heard it from my grandmother and things, right? And I didn't know my birth family until 2 years ago. So I was searching my whole life for where I was from. I had no clue. And it turns out that I happened to move 2 hours away from where that was. So it was
pretty lucky. Yeah. But it was still a sad story. Yeah.
Like for us on Tuesday is the National Day of Truth and Reconciliation. So it's actually, people look at it as a holiday day, which makes my brain hurt, but For me, it's a day to remember because it started with finding 215 unmarked graves at where the Kamloops Residential School was. My grandmother escaped Kamloops Residential School. Her family, some of her family members did not make it home. And so I hear people say, oh, it's not real. That didn't happen. And I'm like, I got firsthand stories of what happened. Like, you don't want to argue.
Yeah, like, what do you mean?
How do you argue stuff like that? So
yeah, and like I don't want to be a total buzzkill sometimes, but like those stories are important. Like, and I have friends who have family members who escape boarding schools, and we have our own incredibly fraught history of that in the United States. And Canada's not free of that as well, or like they're complicit as well. But yeah, it's an important thing to think about, and it's an important thing to understand. And like we've been having a reckoning, I think, in the outdoor spaces with that the last decade or so. I think so.
Yeah, man. Any final words of wisdom? And then where's the best place for people to find you?
Oh man. Like I said before, if you're going to be like me and be a ding dong traveling around and staying on friends' couches, always do your dishes. Do your friends' dishes. Even if you didn't make them, just do the dishes. I guarantee you will always get invited back to that couch. If you take care of the dishes, everything will be okay in the world. Not good photographic advice, but good life advice. You can find me mostly on Instagram. Spencer J. Harding is really easy. I don't do much else. I don't have a TikTok, I don't think. Maybe there's an account. I write and review and do editorial stuff for the Radavist.com. So you can you can click on my name in there and find a whole host of articles from all over the years. It's really cool to have access to those things and be available. If you have questions or you want to talk, I love when I've gotten to like pay back a bit of my road debt for people who have helped me growing as a photographer. And I get really excited when I get emails that actually aren't just from like sales and robots. So if you have something you want to talk about, reach out. Or if there's other photographers you like, reach out to them and just talk to them. They will probably respond.
Perfect, man. Well, I appreciate your time today. I appreciate your story. I appreciate us sharing. It was great. I love hearing your philosophies on things. Maybe some people will take it in and start looking after Mother Earth like she needs to be looked after. Nothing worse than showing up at a spot and having to clean up garbage for 4 hours before you can enjoy it.
Amen.
All right, man. Thank you again.
Thank you so much for having me. It was really lovely to get this email. And like I said, I get like, oh, you want to talk about fun stuff? Sweet. I'll be there.
Yeah. No, and we set it up quick. I mean, I think it was like within a week or so, I emailed you. You're like, yep, let's do it. And then
I fly to Germany on Thursday. So this is good. Gotta go shoot more pictures of pretty bicycles.
Oh, bummer.
I know, life is so hard. What was me?
Man, but keep me up to date. If you have any fun projects you're working on and you want to just talk about them or you want some help promoting them, I'm always down. And again, enjoy the rest of your day. I'm going to go and tune up my e-bike and get ready to ride it to work all week.
I believe in you.
Thank you, sir. We'll talk soon.
Jason.
Have a great one. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to the PHYS Podcast. If this conversation inspired you, taught you something, or made you see the world a little differently, make sure you like, comment, subscribe, and share this episode with someone who needs to hear it. Follow us on all social medias at PHYS_podcast to stay connected with future episodes, behind-the-scenes content, and the growing creative community around the show. And remember, as always, photography heals your soul. Thank you for listening. Have a great day.